other day. Hello, everyone. My name is Rach. I'm a very, very grateful recovered alcoholic and addict. It's really wonderful to be with you here on a Friday night studying the big book together. We are on page 68. Okay, we're going into the sex conduct part of our inventory process. So before we get started, let's just flick back to the page where the steps are and just remind ourselves of what step 4 is, because this is the step that we're currently in. So step 4 made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Okay, so we're going to search deep within ourselves. We're searching for the truth. We're going to do it fearlessly. There's a lot of fear mongering around these steps, 4 and 5, but the irony is that it says fearless. And whenever I speak to someone who might be a little bit nervous or anxious about doing these steps, I always say, look, we know who we're resentful at, we know what we're scared of, and we know what our sex conduct has been. We know who we've harmed. So we're not actually reliving these things. We're writing a business-like inventory, and they gave us that definite example on page 65, which is very concise. Who I'm resentful at, the cause and effects my. So there's, sorry, let me just go back to the steps. So made a searching and fearless moral inventory. So moral, our ideals around what's right and what's wrong. We're having a really honest look at that. And an inventory is simply a list. So if ever you feel a little bit swayed, maybe going into a bit of a life story or anything, we're trying to really laser focus on my mistakes. It tells us in the inventory process, because we've done a good solid few pages on the resentments. They've already told us that resentment is the number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics and addicts than anything else. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease. So it's the only place in the book it refers to this being a disease, an illness, something that spreads. So resentment, they knew that resentment is something that has to be mastered. And it's something that's pretty inevitable for all of us. The word resentment means to refeel. So how much of my life am I squandering refeeling something from the past, right? I can see your face, Guy. You're just like, ah. Yeah, me too. So we've got that really important bit of the inventory about resentment, and then it talks about fear. And we've just gone into these fear pages in the last book study, and it says that it's an evil and corroding thread, and that our lives are shot through with it. So it's another part of our human existence that is inevitable. I'm going to experience fear. And in the fear pages, it confirms that no wonder I've been scared, because I've been relying on self-will. I'm like the actor trying to run the show. I'm telling all the stage characters where to be. I'm designing everything. I'm like that propeller. I'm driving my own life, but remember, I'm driven by fear and selfishness and dishonesty. So the fear, so we've got resentment, we've got fear, and now we've got another really, really, really important part of our human nature. Okay, and that's what we're going to go into today. We're going to cover the sex conduct part of our resentment. And I still feel like even today, in this day and age, it's still an area where people, we don't talk about this part so much. And this is actually a really important thing for us to be speaking about, because it relates to our relationships. And I listened to a book study ages ago, and it said, this is not just about sex, because this is about how I conduct myself as a human. This is about how I conduct myself in relationships. But recently I listened to a book study and the guy went, this is about sex. It says it in the book. If we're going by the clear cut direction, it talks about it being, now about sex. And again, this is a part of our human nature. So let's get into it. We're on the bottom of page 68, and it says, now about sex. Many of us needed an overhauling there. So in mechanical lingo, if you overhaul an engine, what you do is you strip it down back to its core fundamental structure. You take all of the little components away, and then you fix all of the bits. You replace all of the bits that are rusty, that are damaged, and you put it all back together. So this is saying that we're going to strip everything back and put it back together with God's love, with God's ideals. But above all, we try to be sensible on this question. It's so easy to get way off the track. Here we find human opinions running to extremes. So that human opinions is a bit of a problem, because it's I'm learning how to not rely on human power anymore. I've already established, we're in step 4 now, which has made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. But back in step 2, I started, and step 1, my powerlessness and unmanageability. My step 2 came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity, and starting to see the insanity of my thinking. So I always ask people this, in recovery, have you ever had a sober relationship? Because for me personally, I picked up alcohol and mind-altering substances as a teenager. I didn't really stop until I came into recovery. So that means that every single relationship that I've ever had has been warped. My human opinions are unsavory. They're not healthy. So here we find human opinions running to extremes, absurd extremes, perhaps. So crazy, insane, absurd. One set of voices cry that sex is a lust of our lower nature, a base necessity for procreation. So one set of voices saying that, let's not, this is not so, because it tells us a bit later on that this is God-given, but there's one camp that are saying, look, we should just be doing this to procreate, just to have babies. It's not something that, is about connection or love or anything else like that. Then we have the voices who cry for sex and more sex. So obviously the people who are at the other end of the spectrum, and it's telling us that we need to be sensible about this. We're getting way off the track. And in the 12 and 12, it talks about our basic human instincts that have gone awry. This is part of my problem. My greed, it comes from my wanting to be secure, my overactive, or underactive areas of my sex life is, because I'm trying to control people, I'm trying to validate, I'm trying to get love, I'm trying to change the way I feel with human interactions. So then we have the voices who cry for sex and more sex, who bewail the institution of marriage. Bewail means express great regret or sadness, disappointment about something. So that's the camp of people who are like, ugh, we're not into marriage. Let's just have fun. Let's just live it up. Who think that most of the troubles of the race are traceable to sex causes. So again, we've got that kind of judging or blaming or thinking too much, which is part of the problem. This bit jumped out at me a couple of years into recovery. They think we do not have enough of it, question mark, or that it isn't the right kind, question mark. Have you ever felt like that? Do you crave a relationship, get into a relationship, and then go, it's not what I want. It's not how I want it. It's not exactly that. So remember Dr. Silkworth talking about restless, irritable, and discontented. You know, again, trying to be the actor, trying to control things, not being happy with the way things are. And is that part of my alcoholism, my addiction? They see its significance everywhere, question mark. So this could be around lust. This could be around judgment. So maybe its significance could be, you know, again, that I'm lusting everywhere, or that I'm sort of like, ew, people are so disgusting, or whatever. They see its significance everywhere. Is this an uneven balance in my mind? Welcome to those that have joined. Great to have you. We're on page 69. You've come a very good place. One school would allow man no flavor for his fare. And what that means, his fare is an old-fashioned word for referring to food. So one man would allow no flavor for his fare means, just imagine like a really bland, I always think of like a really dry piece of chicken that's like just really hard to like swallow because it's so dry. And the other would have us all on a straight pepper diet. So spicy as anything, literally your mouth is salivating, you just can't even, you know. So again, it's talking about these human, absurd opinions and extremes, out of whack, completely out of whack. We want to stay out of this controversy. So we don't want to have an argument about this. Sorry, I'm just admitting people. 1 second. Welcome to those that have joined. We are on page 69. You've come a good. I can see some of you chuckling to yourselves. It's funny that, isn't it? Everyone always laughs when you're like, oh, the sex conduct is on page 69. How very apt. Well done, Bill. Another little coinky dink. There's loads of really cool things in this. So we want to stay out of this controversy. We do not want to be the arbiter of anybody's sex conduct. And no worries. Great to have you here. We do not want to be the arbiter of anyone's sex conduct. So an arbiter is a judge, a person who settles a dispute. Now, it's really, really, really important that as a sponsor, I do not think that I know what's best for anyone else. I already don't even know what is right for myself. I've literally burned my own life to the ground. Even if I think I'm well, or I get, you know, quite spiritually well, it tells me here in black and white. And the reason that it's so important is because it's, again, another form of controlling someone else and playing God. And that is dangerous. If I told a sponsee what to do about their relationship and it all goes completely wrong, they could come back, resentment, gossip, all of the rest of it. I'm not equipped to do that. I'm equipped as a sponsor to take people through the work and follow the clear-cut directions in the book. I can obviously share my experience on certain things, but that's as far as it goes. I'm not to be the judge of anybody's sex conduct. Really, really important. And then I love this line, we all have sex problems. Isn't that brilliant? Isn't that reassuring? You know, why is that? Maybe it's because it's connected to love, and that's a powerful emotion, you know, that's all about connection. We all have sex problems. We'd hardly be human if we didn't. What can we do about them? So again, Bill Wilson is telling us the problem. We need this overhauling. Let's try and be sensible about it. Let's not be the judge of anybody's sex conduct. Let's get into action and find a way. They've told us about the resentments. We need to master them because the selfishness will kill us. They've also said that this fear is evil and corroding, and our lives are shot through with it. Now they're going to tell us about our sex conduct and what we need to do about it. So we reviewed our own conduct over the years past. Now, again, just in this whole inventory pages, from pages 63 up to here, it's telling us again and again and again and again, the inventory is ours, not the other person's. So if you find yourself straying into the story, I did this because you did that, or you find a sponsee when you're going through the inventory process, going into the story, it's a good place to bring it back and say, look, we can't go back and change the past. We can't change what anybody else said or did. There's no point in us wasting time talking about the situation. We're looking at our own conduct over the years past. We're looking for these patterns of behavior that is blocking us off from the sunlight of the spirit. Where had we been? Not the other person. Where had we been? Selfish. So there's 9 things here. And then obviously we can add to it at the end. So selfish, there's that common theme again, isn't it? About selfishness. Dishonest, and that can mean dishonest outright. It can mean an outright lie. But we can also be dishonest. Remember in the resentment bit, it says fancied or real. Are we making up stories in our head? Am I acting out in a way because I think something has happened, fancied or real? Or am I being dishonest to myself? Am I staying in this relationship and actually I'm lying to myself? The evidence is, you know, there, but I'm still trying to pretend it's something else. Dishonest, inconsiderate. You know, inconsiderate means that I'm either not thinking about you entirely, so it's another form of selfishness. I'm knowing what you want, but I'm just doing it anyway. Or I'm completely not even thinking about how you feel about something. So there's lots of different forms of being inconsiderate. Whom had we hurt? So this is in one of our columns, we can put who have we hurt? What are the harms that we've caused in our relationships? And even though this is about sex, you can include other people in the inventory process. Anybody who comes to you in meditation that you've harmed. So did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy? So if you want to number these, 1 is for selfish, 2 dishonest, 3 inconsiderate, 4 whom had we hurt, 5 did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, 6 suspicion, 7 bitterness, and 8 where were we? I've got that we squiggly underlined again. Where were we at fault? And 9, what should we have done instead? So the inventory process, obviously different people are going to do it in different ways. The first time I went through it, I had like a chart which my sponsor sent to me, and these were all in columns. And the what should we have done instead, I was a bit confused by that. I was just like, well, I'll give you an example. It's a bit vulnerable, but oh, all of a sudden I feel really scared to do it. But back in the day, I was seeing somebody who I later then found out was married. And what should I have done instead was like, I should have not done that. But so what I started to do is flip this inventory process so that I didn't have integrity, because it's going to tell us soon that we need to pray with God's help to get this sane and sound ideal. So what I should have done instead is have self-respect, have integrity, have loyalty, and all of those things. So I'll explain it a bit more as we go through it. What should we have done instead? We got this all down on paper and looked at it. So again, we are putting pen to paper, black and white, writing this down. We're looking at the facts. We're looking at the evidence. In this way, we tried to shape a sane and sound ideal for our future sex life. And I know that some people have joined us that weren't here just at the beginning, and a really good question to ask ourselves or our sponsees is, have you ever had a sober relationship? Because if I haven't, then every single relationship that I've had has not been sane. I've been insane. I've been warped and tainted with my own selfish and dishonest and inconsiderate patterns of behavior. And this is like an action, isn't it? In this way, we try to shape our sane and sound ideal for our future sex life. So this is all of our relationships moving forward are going to hopefully be sane and sound when we go through with this process. We subjected each relation to this test. Was it selfish or not? Oh, that's a good question. It's very simple, isn't it? Was it selfish or not? It's a harsh one, but when we write down the facts, it's like then we can see. And I don't know about you guys, but when I came into recovery, I did not even think or assume or guess that I was selfish. It only came to me after it was, after I went through this process. So the insanity and the unawareness, was it selfish or not? We asked God to mold our ideals and live up to them. Welcome, Rob. So this is prayer. We asked God to mold our ideals and live up to them. Our ideals is how we want to conduct ourselves, how we want to show up for people and ourselves in the future. And to help us live up to them, that's an action as well, isn't it? Because we can't do it by ourselves. I need God's help. We remembered always that our sex powers were God-given and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised and loathed. So for those that have joined, we're on page 69. And there's so much shame around sex, intimacy. And again, it's such a taboo subject that people don't feel comfortable talking about. So this is really reassuring. I've worked with lots of women who have, grown up in very religious backgrounds, and it has been, despised and loathed to even talk or think or act, and this is a part of our basic human nature. So it's saying here, we remembered always, that's a lovely reassuring bit of guidance, remembered always that our sex powers were God-given and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised and loathed. So whatever our ideals turns out to be, and it's shocked me in the past when I've spoken to some people, they thought that the sex ideal was what they wanted in their partner. And they literally thought that I want my partner to be kind and caring and loving, this is not about what we want from the other person. This is our own ideal. So whatever our ideal turns out to be, we must be willing to grow towards it. Now, one of the mistakes that I made, like the first time round, I went through this process and I had a piece of paper which had my sane and sound sex ideal on it, which for me at that time looked like a load of words that was the opposite of my character defects. So if I had been dishonest, selfish, manipulative, unkind, inconsiderate, the list goes on, in all of my relationships, my sane and sound sex ideal looked like I was kind, I was thoughtful, I was stable, I was honest, I was accepting. That's how my sex ideal looked. But I remember I had this piece of paper and then I just didn't look at it. It's saying here, we must be willing to grow towards it. So if you're unfamiliar with what your sex ideal is, it's a really good idea to keep on revisiting it so that I can remember that this is what I've worked with God, I've communicated with my own higher power to help me get to this place where I'm growing towards it. I know what it is, and I'm in prayer and meditation daily, asking for the help to show up. So we must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, provided that we do not bring about still more harm in so doing. So this, for those that know all of the steps, this is around step 9, isn't it? Making amends, making direct amends, but because it comes up a lot. And thank God we have sponsors, thank God we have tribes people who we can go and get guidance, because that self will run riot. And sometimes, think, oh yeah, I've had so many women that have been like, I definitely need to make amends to my ex. But there might be a potential of the person causing harm to themselves or others by doing that. So it's a really good idea to pause when agitated or doubtful. Consult someone who's, your sponsor or people in your tribe, because we don't want to be having to make more amends, and we don't want to be causing any more harm. So in other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem. Okay? In meditation, we ask God what we should do about each specific matter. So this is an action, isn't it? And it's in prayer. It's saying in meditation, we ask God. So this is like a prayer. We ask God what we should do in each specific matter. Again, this is kind of asking me, am I showing up and spending time with God in meditation around my sex conduct? It told me again a couple of pages ago in the resentments bit, do we squander the hours that could have been worthwhile? Am I just ruminating on some situations instead of asking God what I should do in each specific matter? And then it says the right answer will come. And I love this bit. It says, if we want it, ? I don't know if you can relate or identify to this, but being in a situation and maybe not wanting the truth, maybe just running with the narrative, maybe you secretly know deep down in your stomach what the right thing to do is, but actually maybe I don't have the power to do it because I'm not really sitting in meditation asking God what I should do. Maybe I don't feel like I'm not ready to let go of something or take action in some area. So it says God alone can judge our sex situation. So that's reassuring as well. It's another reminder that this human power, I can't keep on relying on human power. it ties into my step 3, made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. So counsel with persons is often desirable, but we let God be the final judge. We realize that some people are as fanatical about sex as others are loose. So again, this is talking about the absurd human opinion. And because we're so highly affected by relationships, so in the book, we've got resentment, we've got fear, we've got sex conduct. And in the rooms, there's that running kind of narrative about money and the honey, which is, money is finances, fear of not having enough, or greed, wanting too much. And the honey is obviously relationships. So yeah, we're learning how to rely on God now and not on these external things like human opinion or, things that change the way we feel. We realize that some people are as fanatical about sex as others are loose. We avoid hysterical thinking or advice. Again, very, very, very important. I've really thick, squiggly underlined advice. I don't know if anybody on this meeting has ever been burned by giving advice on relationships as a sponsor, and it's all gone wrong. Gone wrong for ourselves or for the person that we're giving advice to. Dangerous. Stay clear of it. I just stick to the literature, share my experience, but ultimately, I always recommend sponsees go to prayer, ask God. In meditation, ask God. I can just, guide. Obviously, if I can see something that they can't see around harm to others, or if there's a motive there, which we're going to talk about a bit more. So suppose we fall short of the chosen ideal and stumble. The chosen ideal being around, these assets that God wants us to live in today. So in this inventory process, I've worked out all of those things. Where have I been selfish, dishonest, inconsiderate? Who have I hurt? Have I unjustifiably aroused jealousy, suspicion, bitterness? Where were we at fault? That where were we at fault is how have I harmed these people? And if I fall short of that chosen ideal and stumble, does this mean we're going to get drunk? Some people tell us so, but this is only a half truth. It depends on us and on our motives. And I've highlighted that and squiggly underlined. And again, this kind of boils down a lot to my own honesty around every relationship in my life, whether it be an intimate relationship or not. Have I got a motive? It says, if we are sorry for what we have done, and I love this bit, and have the honest desire to let God take us to better things, question mark. I'm going to read that bit again. So, do I have the honest desire to let God take us to better things? If that is not faith, if that is not trust, do I have this honest desire? Do I believe that God is going to take me to better things? Or am I clinging on to something, an old idea? Am I being selfish and dishonest and inconsiderate in my relationships? Because it says we believe that he will be forgiven and will have learned our lessons. So let me read it again because I just broke that up. If we are sorry for what we have done and have the honest desire to let God take us to better things, we believe we will be forgiven and will have learned our lesson. This is a scary, harsh, painful truth, right? If we are not sorry and our conduct continues to harm others, we are quite sure to drink. We are not theorizing. These are facts out of our experience. I love that word facts because it's like it's proof, it's evidence, it's experience, lived experience. And this conduct is my own my own patterns of behavior. So unless I am doing regular inventory, this is why all the steps are so beautifully interwoven. If I'm not doing a nightly review, and if I'm not doing my spot check inventories, I can do a thorough house cleaning. But if I'm not keeping on top of it each day, my old character defects of selfishness and inconsiderate and manipulation and whatever else they are, they can just creep back in ever so subtly. And it's telling me here as a big warning, if our conduct continues to harm others, we are quite sure to drink. We are not theorizing. These are facts out of our experience. Here we go. We've got some clear-cut direction. To sum up about sex, and now I've numbered these bits. 1, we earnestly pray for the right ideal. This is an action, right? Earnestly means with sincere and intense conviction. We earnestly pray for the right ideal, remembering if you're anything like me and haven't actually had a sober relationship before coming into recovery, it's like I don't actually know what this right ideal is because all of my relationships have been warped. So 2, for guidance in each questionable situation. So again, am I sitting down each day? Am I incorporating any meditation each day about my sex conduct? Or is that something I do every couple of years when I go through it again with my sponsor? It's good questions to ask. 3, for sanity. Has anybody on this meeting ever felt insane in a relationship? It sends us crazy, right? Cray. So we're praying for sanity, for and for the strength to do the right thing. Again, we're going back to step 1 in this. I'm powerless. I need to tap in, ask God for the right ideal, for guidance, for sanity, and for the strength to actually carry it through and to do the right thing. And then it says, if sex is very troublesome, we 5 throw ourselves the harder into helping others. So even though it says if sex is very troublesome, you can actually just change that word to anything that is troublesome. So if work is very troublesome, if family is very troublesome, if if travel is very troublesome, if life is whatever it is, but this is obviously pinpointed on this problem. If sex is very troublesome, we throw. So that's a good indicator of how we're not just going to like meander and go, oh yeah, I probably should call that newcomer. This is action. Let's throw ourselves the harder into helping others. And number 6, we think of their needs and work for them. So we're working for other people. This takes us out of ourselves. It quiets the imperious urge when to yield would mean heartache. So imperious means an arrogant assurance. It's a domineering urge, something that's taking over. This imperious urge might be to act out in a sexual way, or it might mean my old character defects of how I show up in relationships. So it quiets this domineering urge when to yield, when to give in would mean heartache. We're trying not to cause any more harm. So if there's that all important word, if, the 2-letter word is very important. If we have been thorough about our personal inventory, I've put a question mark there. Have I got everything down? Have I done this searching and fearless moral inventory? Am I holding anything back from my sponsor? Have I still got a bit of shame or whatever around this. Thorough in our personal inventory, we have written down a lot. We have listed and analyzed our resentments. We have begun to comprehend their futility and their fatality. I love that it says begun. This is just the beginning stage of me getting an awareness around how my character defects have harmed people and myself. So, you know, I've begun to see the truth about their futility, which means uselessness, and their fatality, how that's killing me and killing them. And if you think about, you know, what God wants for us, I guess, is if I'm unwilling to see my own patterns of behavior in relationships, I'm just going to keep on making these mistakes, living in my character defects. I'm going to keep on having these patterns of behavior show up over and over again. I'm not going to be given, I'm not going to learn the lessons that God wants me to learn about how to show up as a kind, caring, patient, tolerant, loving human being. Because when I do that, everything comes to me. We're promised that. Fatality, we have commenced, so that's another word, you know, to begin. We have commenced to see their terrible destructiveness. We have begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill towards all men, even our enemies, for we look on them as sick people. So again, all of these words about beginning, we've begun, commenced, begun, it's like we're just starting. And isn't that beautiful that it doesn't matter how far in we get, we can still learn, like, oh, I'm doing that thing again. Oh, you know, how can I show up as a better human being? Patience and goodwill towards all men, yet we look on them as sick people. We have listed the people we have hurt by our conduct and are willing to straighten out the past if we can. So they're dropping in little nuggets that this is going to link to our step 8, where we became willing to make amends to our fellows, and then where we make direct amends, where we write a list of who we've harmed. In this book, you read again and again that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. We hope you are convinced now that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from him. So again, this running thread of, I don't know how to show up any differently than how I have. But when I follow this clear-cut direction, because of the people that have gone before, because again, this other common thread throughout the whole book is saying that God can do these things that I could not do for ourselves. Look at the rebuilding of our relationships, not just intimate ones, like, you know, our families get rebuilt. This is God doing it for me if I am willing to show up and take action. So we hope you are convinced now that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from him. So again, my self-will shows up in me being unwilling to, let's say, for example, unwilling to do thorough inventory. After this step 4 process, like I've said before, you know, I say to sponsees, luckily, like my sponsor said to me, nightly reviews are not optional. You don't get to pick and choose. If this is part of the program. So if I can't see where my self-will is blocking me on a daily basis, I'm going to hit that roadblock where I'm stuck in self, and I can't see it. I'm self-will run riot, but I can't see it. So if you have already made a decision, so this is talking about our step 3, have I made this decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God? And an inventory of your grosser handicaps. where we literally have done it. We're coming to the end of step 4 now. So made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. You have made a good beginning. There's another little reference that this is just the start of the work. That being so, you have swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourself, awareness, honesty, reality, truth, right? I'm going to share with you this analogy that my sponsee gave me ages ago. Some people get it, some people like it, and other people don't. And it's a bit weird because it talks about this process of digestion. And we were sitting there on her sofa and she was like talking about manure. And we got, because of the digestion here, we were thinking, isn't it funny that going through this inventory process, I put all of my grosser handicaps, all of my resentments, all of my fears, all of my sex conduct, all of my character defects, and I ingest them, and something happens. Something happens, this changes, and what comes out of it is actually like a fertilizer. So this is where we went. You can let me know after if you're sticking with me. But like the shit that makes the roses grow beautifully and the veg, do you know what I mean? So it's like something has to be digested, transformed, and then is used as like a fertilizer for this amazing stuff to come out of it, which is in a way what our process of inventory is like. And again, I love to call these steps, the freedom steps. And I think it's more scary for me to live with my blinkers on, going, yeah, but it's not my fault. It's your fault. I'm angry with you. I'm scared of this. And my sex conduct is going to continue because I don't know any different. So I'm more fearful about not getting an insight into this beautiful process. So, if you are speaking to anybody about it, I love to talk about this as a beautiful opportunity to live life in a different way, to get free of the resentments and the fears and the unhelpful conduct. So what I'm going to do, guys, I'm actually going to stop there on the inventory process, even though we're a little bit early, because I think it's a good place to stop. We'll do share backs and then we'll start next week on chapter 6 into action, which is where we go into step 5. So thank you so much for being with me. I'll just stop the recording.